Over the years, I've had thousands of conversations with farmers all over the country, different operations, different states, and ultimately different challenges that they're facing as well. But some key patterns show up every single time. Things that separate the ones that continue to grow and win every single year from the ones who are stuck, frustrated, and feel like they're never gaining any ground. Now, if you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, overwhelmed, or just tired of doing it alone, today's video is for you. I'm breaking down the 4 biggest lessons I've learned talking to these farmers over the years. These aren't theories or things that I made up. These are real world lessons from the people who are actually doing the work. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, but my situation's a little bit different. And I totally get where you're coming from. But what you need to understand is that yes, your details about your operation might be unique, but the patterns probably are not. You want to grow, lead your family well, and build something that lasts. But you've got blind spots inside of the operation, just like the rest of us. The goal here is to give you the clarity you want, help you feel seen, and hopefully push you to take the next step forward for your operation, whatever that may be. All right, so lesson number 1, my friends, is resilience beats luck every single time. Every farmer I know wants to catch a break, and a lot of those farmers that want to catch that break get caught in this never-ending cycle of comparing their operation to others in their county or in their area or whatever it may be. And the truth is that it's easy to look at another operation and say, well, they just got lucky, or everything seems to fall into their lap. And I totally get where you're coming from with that mindset or that viewpoint. But what most people don't see is the resilience it took those operations to get there. And I'm talking about the years that they stuck it out, the adversity they had to go through, or just the critical times inside of their business career where everything was on the line. They made one critical decision one year and literally had to risk the entire operation, not knowing whether or not it was going to work out. They did all the legwork to try to make sure they were strategic and calculated in that decision. But at the end of the day, there was a massive weight that they had and a huge risk they were taking. None of this stuff is talked about. And unless you talk to people just like I have, you need to understand that the operation and where it's at today, it was built that way over decades of work, and some of them, it was generations of work there as well. And over the years, their resilience was challenged and proven year after year after year. And in talking to these operations, my friend, one thing that I've learned is that the luck that people get, it's not random, it's earned. And the truth is that most operations today, they want shortcuts. Well, I'm sorry, but earning luck means you have to go through the grind, meaning there's no shortcuts. You are taking the only pathway that God has put in front of you to earn your way to the top or to the results that you ultimately want. Looking for shortcuts is only going to cause you heartache and setbacks long term. We all know this, but people want to look for shortcuts because that's easier than doing the hard path on the other side. And the other challenge here too with always looking for the shortcuts is those people I've learned over the years, they are full of excuses. And I'm just being real with you. They are the victims that you don't want to surround yourself with. They are the ones that are always going to have a reason or excuse as to why they're not where they want to be. And ultimately, the ones that will always be stuck in this never-ending cycle of comparing themselves, stuck on this hamster wheel, never gaining any ground, and always being stuck in that victim mentality full of excuses. But the number one thing that separates that person from the ones that continue to win year after year and earn their luck is they've figured out how to accept and get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because every part of growth and success that you want inside of your life or your business is only going to be found in discomfort. There is no other way. I'm sorry, but there's no shortcut to this. That is the pathway. That is what God has put in front of us. This is what his demands are of where we go in order to get to that desired result that we want inside of our operation. Now, if you're watching this and any part of what I just said kind of hit you in the face there a little bit, you're probably realizing there's more going on underneath the surface with you. And I'm here to tell you that's a good thing. You need to lean into it because now we're bringing these problems and this awareness to the surface here, which is putting you in the perfect opportunity to finally do something about it. All right, lesson number 2, money is a tool, not the goal. Now, some of us came from generations that had to chase money to survive. My granddad, for example, grew up in the 1930s, used to talk about the dirty 30s here in Kansas and waking up with a cloud of dust and everything over his blanket and stuff like that. Just terrible times there. And my granddad grew up without any money, which means he was taught, trained, and conditioned to chase money. Not because it was the end all be all, but because in his world, not having it obviously sucked there. But going through that type of childhood and lifestyle growing up, it's going to push any one of us to focus heavily on making money so that we can provide an easier life, not only just for us, but for the future generations that follow us as well. But the problem that my granddad granddad face is that he was so wrapped up and focused on the money that it became his definition of his legacy and ultimately what success meant to him. And I totally get that, right? And at some level, again, I understand completely where he came from, how he was raised, the things that happened to him in his childhood, and why he would be focused on that. But at the end of his life, he passed away with absolutely nothing, realizing that, man, maybe money wasn't what I should have been chasing after all. And that experience is the reason I'm bringing this lesson up to you right now. If the only thing you're chasing is more money, the truth is it'll never be enough. At some point in your life, you have to find something beyond money that's going to drive you to continue taking actions and growing every single day. And that's where we have to start going into the deep work with every individual we work with and really finding out, okay, what's the purpose beyond money? Because your life is so much more than that. And at the end of the day, if you continue to chase money over and over and over again, you lose all the important things inside of your life as well. And my granddad was a great example of what happens there when you do that. But also too, I'm so grateful that he went through that and I got to witness it because it just changed my perspective on what I'm here to do. And at the end of the day, we can all chase money, but guess what? Once you get the money, it'll solve some problems, but then after that, you're just left with all the problems that money can't solve. And that is why understanding what your purpose or your driver beyond money is so important inside of your life. Lesson number 3, community matters. Here's one thing I know for sure. Isolated farmers, they lose. And the reason for this is because the ag environment that we're all living in today, it's changing by the hour. Markets, policies, opportunities, and ultimately what's working and not working inside of today's environment. But the truth is that most farmers, they want to be isolated and cut off from the rest of the world there. And I totally get why, right? Most of us are introverted if you grew up in a small farm community like I did. Totally get that. But at the end of the day, it's a recipe for failure because you need access to the right information and the right people that are going to help you get through whatever economic time that we're going through and running your operation. And this is where over the years, yes, we do a lot of things inside of Legacy Farmer. We have our software called Farmer Metrics. We have our coaches. We have the accountability. But the number one thing that a lot of people come back for is because of the community, right? Because this is the one central place and environment that we've created here where people can come with all their problems with zero judgment and get valuable insight and feedback from everybody else in the community. Again, no judgment here. You can come here with whatever problem you're dealing with, whether it's lawsuits, divorce, bankruptcy, challenges with your banker, challenges with your team, challenges with yourself and trying to build the operation and lead the operation, becoming the individual that needs to do it. Totally, all those problems. We talk about those things there. And that's why the community piece here is so important because you cannot be isolated. Because guess what happens when you're isolated? You have zero control of what's happening up here. And the stories that are going through your mind are ultimately going to control you and your results so much more than what you realize. But for a lot of people, they can't stand the stories that are going on up here. Right? It sends them into this deep, dark spiral inside of their life, and they're ultimately never going to get the results that they want. And this is how you end up living a life full of excuses and zero accountability for your results or your actions. Because if you're isolated, it is going to be very challenging to get control of the stories up here. This is why you need access to a community here that's going to give you different perspectives and ultimately different solutions on how you can solve the problems that you're facing today. Lesson number 4, your definition of legacy shapes every decision you make inside of your operation. Now, like my granddad, some people still today think that their legacy is about their money that they're leaving or the assets that they're leaving that's on their balance sheet. And I totally get, again, where those people are coming from. It depends on how they were raised and what their childhood was like and why they may be chasing those things and why that may be at the core of their definition of their legacy. Totally get that. But the reality is your legacy is so much more than just the assets that you're leaving behind on your balance sheet. And the farmers that I've talked to over the years that are truly fulfilled and are attached to their purpose inside of their life, their definition of legacy is completely different. They're thinking about the character that they're passing down, or the leadership, or the work ethic, and most importantly, the experiences that they're passing down to the next generation. Because at the end of the day, some of the things that we remember about the prior generation that's passed on is a lot of those experiences or life lessons or what not to do. Those are all the things that I think about with my granddad and everything. I'm so grateful for the decisions that he made and ultimately too the mistakes that he made, because it taught me a lot about what I don't want in my life as well. And if we're focused solely on passing on money or assets or material wealth or whatever it may be, man, we kind of lose focus of those things that actually matter there when it comes to passing on leadership and core values and character and experiences and things like that that'll actually help our kids make decisions when we are gone, which I do not know of a better way to positively impact your kids with your legacy after you're gone other than doing it that way, right? Again, the money, the assets, all that stuff is great, but man, I want them to remember who I was, the type of person that I was, and remember my character, my core values, and ultimately too, those experiences that I told them about, so they don't continue to make the same mistakes that I did. Because if there's one thing that we see inside a legacy farmer, is that one generation goes through, they build up everything, they make mistake after mistake after mistake, but they don't pass on any of the lessons. And then guess what the next generation is going to do? Restart the same cycle over and over and over again. And you wonder why operations don't grow with every generation here, because at the end of the day, yes, we can pass on the money and the assets, but we have to pass on those experiences so each generation is growing from that perspective as well. All right, guys, now if you connected with all of the lessons that I shared with you today, I hope you appreciated them, because again, they were found off of thousands of conversations with farmers and ranchers from across the country over the past decade. But also too, all the lessons that we talked about, we've built our entire platform and community inside of Legacy around helping people solve and implement these lessons inside of their own operation. Through our platform called Farmer Metrics, and then our private tools, and also to our community, it is a guarantee that you get the clarity, direction, and support you've been looking for. Now, at the end of the day, you have the responsibility, just like I have the responsibility, to make sure that we build something that lasts. But just like me, you do not have to do this alone. Click the link below this video to learn more about Legacy Farmer.